Hi guys, it's Emma Tortolo, and I want to start by asking you a question. What do you think are the habits that define you as a reader, as somebody who reads for pleasure and who thinks of themselves as part of their identity as a reader? That is one of the questions that the author of this book answers. It's called Reading in the Wild, The Book Whisperer's Keys to Cultivating Lifelong Reading Habits by Donalyn Miller. And the reason I chose this book and the reason I like it so much is that she advocates for an approach to reading that reflects the way that people read in the real world. She says at some point that made me laugh, that no adult reading for pleasure in the real world reads a book they love and then feels compelled to complete a crossword about it or do a word search. When you read a book you love, the first thing you want to do is tell a friend and say, oh my God, you have to pick up this book. And so what Donalyn Miller did, she interviewed hundreds of people about their reading habits. And when she says a wild reader, she means someone who reads for pleasure. And she asked hundreds of colleagues, friends, current students, former students, what they think defines them a reader. And then she dedicated a chapter of this book to each of the habits that she thought were most important. Some of the habits were wild readers dedicate time, they have book communities, they have a reading plan. And then in each chapter she goes through and explains how to scaffold these habits in students so that they leave your classroom identifying as a reader and having these habits that define them as readers and make them more likely to read for pleasure later on in life. One of the very small tips that she shared that I loved is what she calls edge times, and how students need to learn that you don't necessarily need 20 minutes in a block to read or 30 minutes in a block to read, that if you always carry a book with you, you can read in 5 minutes while you're waiting for the bus, or 10 minutes stuck at your sister's soccer game. She calls these reading emergencies, and that you should always have a book on hand for reading emergencies. So I highly recommend getting this book, carrying it around with you, and then your next reading emergency, you can dip in for some great ideas on how to get your students excited about reading in the wild.